Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly vlog for October the 24th, 2023, and it's episode number 238. And I had a little rough start this morning. My brain seems to be everywhere, but then again you're going to say, isn't your brain everywhere all the time? Yeah, pretty much true. Anyways, let's take a look at what I have been working on and talk a little bit about these. And here we go. So it's kitties. Yes, it's my Scrappy Cat's quilt, which I haven't got as far on as I would have liked to, but I was, a little busy this week with the retreat and some other things. I've got 10 out of the 23 cats done, the blocks. This pattern, although it is very simple, it can be very confusing when you're cutting out your pieces, especially when you're using your AccuQuilt and you're trying to cut a lot of pieces at once and keep them organized so you can work on the cats in a more efficient manner. Well, anyways, yeah, enough about my problems with this. It's coming along, and I'm hoping to get a lot more of the cats done by the end of this week. And just get on with the whole thing. But it's coming. Now, okay, the color scheme, it's supposed to be Scrappy. It's called Scrappy Cats. And so I grabbed a fat quarter bundle of chroma. I believe it was chroma. And that's what I'm using, except I'm finding that I'm running out of a variety of colors. I'm basically making two cats from each color scheme. So I may have to look in my stash for some more bundles of things. I'm actually thinking of possibly looking for a fat quarter bundle that is of prints in this color range and using that as well. I think it might add a little bit more variety to the quilt as well. So we'll see how that works out. But I'm working on it, so you're going to be seeing this in bits and pieces for a little while yet. The next thing are my gnomes. Yes, my cute little freestanding lace gnomes, the guy gnome and the girl gnome. I'm loving these things. They take a little while to make, but they're great. You could use them as a Christmas decoration. You could put them on a package for somebody. You're giving a gift. Hang them in your sewing room, whatever. I think I've got 21 up there now. I need to make just a few more. I'd like to have around 25 or so because we're invited to a couple of different events in the next couple of months, which is rare for us. Nobody invites us anywhere. But I don't know. Not complaining. Okay. But I don't like to go to anything empty-handed. So I'm going to take these. I'll put a little ribbon in the top of each one, and then people can choose if they want to hang them on their Christmas tree or on a gift or whatever. I think there's a lot of interesting things you could do with these little gnomes. And they're fun. Really, they're just fun. And you know me and gnomes. And of course, speaking of gnomes, you have seen this already if you've been following my vlogs, but I think it's worth seeing again because I'm very proud of this. Now, this came about completely by accident, completely unplanned. I was working away on those gnomes you just saw, the freestanding lace ones, and I had forgot that I had bought another gnome file when I got those. That is this center block, this gnome at the sewing machine, or gnomes at the sewing machine. It says quilt shop, and this little guy, he's working on a quilt block here, and this little guy is doing something with the thread. I thought that was just stinking cute. And I wanted to see what it looked like when it's sewn out. So, in the process of making those freestanding lace gnomes and working on the kitties, I decided to sew this out. And I really liked it. And I thought, well, I don't want to just throw it in a drawer somewhere for future reference. Maybe I'll put a couple of border pieces around it. And you can see I did, and it's K facet, and they were just scraps that I had sitting in my stash. And I thought, well, that looked pretty good. Those colors in the K facet, I think, work with that particular block. And my original idea at that point then was, well, maybe I'll get a frame and frame it, and I'll just hang it on the wall here in my sewing room because it would look nice in the sewing room. But when I was opening up my gnome drawer yes, I have a gnome drawer. I keep all my gnome fabrics, gnome patterns, anything related to gnomes in that drawer for future projects. I came across the American Gothic gnomes. Now, they're stinking cute too, and I forgot that I had stitched those out some time ago and they just got tossed in the drawer. So I thought, well, let's put borders around those two, maybe the same type of borders as I put around this center block, and I could frame that too, and maybe this could be a series, across my cupboard doors down here in my sewing room. But then I thought, they're so pretty. They'd make a nice little table runner, and I had these K-facet strips that are left over my stash. But, I needed to balance it out, so I thought, well, I'll stitch out another gnome one. I had this one in my collection. I had never stitched it out, the couple on the bike, and I thought they'd look pretty good on either side of the gnomes in the center. You got the girl gnome and the guy gnome here. You got the girl gnome and the guy gnome here, and, actually, this tells a little story. Doesn't it? I mean, you can make up a story about anything, but I'm thinking, oh, here they are, the happy little young couple of gnomes out going for a picnic with their little bottle of wine and flowers on their bike. And then years later, they got interested in quilting and working on sewing projects and things like that. And here they are. And then in their old age, they decided to retire from things peacefully together and, kill people with their pitchfork. Well, no, that's not really how the story goes. I don't know. I have this imagination that sometimes boggles my imagination. Anyways, put those all together, added some borders, more K-facet, did some free motion quilting on my domestic machine in the blocks here, and then some wavy line quilting using my walking foot, backed it. Well, it was backed already when I was doing the quilting, and bound it, and there it is. And I like it. I like the colors in it. They're in my color scheme of things. And it brings me joy looking at it. Now, somebody asked me when I mentioned this on Stephen Walter Live, was I going to keep this one or give it away? Well, I don't know. It's in a basket that I've started with miscellaneous table runners that I have made that I don't intend to probably use as gifts for people. And I'm trying to think of somebody that I know that likes gnomes as well. I know of one person, but I've already made her a table runner that I'm going to give her at Christmas. So I don't know. For now, it's just sitting in my basket, waiting for a home. But it brings me joy looking at it. I think it's cute. So there you go. You see, there's all kinds of things you can do with an embroidery machine. And sometimes you find little hidden treasures that you've speared away into your drawers and don't know, and then come across them another time with a new idea. So, I don't think anything goes to waste when you're creating, right? You can always find a purpose for it. If you can't find an immediate purpose for it, put it somewhere, and someday you may find a purpose for it. I mean, I collect orphan blocks. And I was just thinking to myself this morning, like I need another project right now, but I think I've got enough orphan blocks that I could make a quilt out of them. And I was thinking maybe going the route of possibly sort of like a crazy quilt, I could do some decorative stitching along the seams and stuff like that just for fun. That's what I would call a project as a palette cleanser, when I'm getting tired of working on patterns. But right now, I have other things I have to focus on. So, yeah, this is what happens. Squirrels to the left of me, squirrels to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yeah, it's an old song. Okay, moving on. What's happening? What's happened? Well, we've got Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen tomorrow, Wednesday, October the 29th, 9 a.m. start time. Finish around 4 in the afternoon. Come and go as you please. You know the drill. Link is in the show notes below. We had the retreat. I'm still trying to come down off my cloud on that one because I had such a good time. Although I didn't do any sewing, I still had a good time talking to everybody, beating them into submission. Oh, did I say that out loud? Yeah, I did. No, really, it was a great experience from my point of view as an organizer, because people really did take to heart the suggestions, very loud suggestions that I made about, signing on with your real name first and last. Most people did. A few people had a little problem with that, but it wasn't a major problem. I was able to correct it for them, and that is fine. We didn't have any major technical problems. That was good. The presenters were wonderful, and I have linked, I recorded their presentations, and you'll find links for them in the show notes below. If you weren't able to come to the retreat and would like to see those presentations, you can do so, along with the slideshow of the participants' lovely creations that they sent to me. So that's all there. Yeah, I think it was a good day all the way around. So I'm in the process now of starting my preliminary thinking and planning for the spring retreat. When will the spring retreat happen? Not absolutely sure. Do not have a date for you. All I can tell you is it probably won't be until about the first or second week of May. A little late. I usually like to do it in around April, but we will be in Australia for at least part of that month. And we're going to be in Australia for about 3.5 weeks, starting in the tail end of March. So, yeah, that's there. But yes, there will be a spring retreat. So, when we get into next year, next year, 2024, can you believe it? I will be sending out all my preliminary emails and announcements about all of that, and away we'll go. Somebody asked how many did we have? We had 93. It was really good, really good. And I am very happy to say that I only have one name on my blacklist from this. Someone who just didn't bother to show up and has never sent me anything to say why. And if I do think back, I think I had some problems with this individual once before too. So yeah, they're on the official blacklist. Unless, of course, I hear from them this week and, they write me a profusely long apology that sounds legit. I'm being a little facetious here. But yeah. So I'm very happy that I didn't have to put more than that on the blacklist. Okay, so as I said, there is a link to the presenters and to the retreat slideshow, and not everybody had submitted a picture of one of their creations for the slideshow, but a vast majority of people did. So I added a little soundtrack to that. There's no talking in it. There's nothing really to read except the people's names, because I said to people, don't bother sending me a blurb, because let's face it, everybody just wants to look at the quilts. They don't want a big long story about each one in that format anyway. So it's there for you to enjoy. Now, just on the heels of the retreat, you think I would take a rest. Nah, I'll rest when I'm dead. I'm having a pop-up sew day this coming Saturday, so October the 28th, starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and running until about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Depends on whether I get bored or not. And so I have sent out the Zoom link for that and the explanation of that to everybody that's on my mailing list, but the Zoom link is in the show notes below here as well. All are welcome to join. It's come and go as you please. Many of you know the drill for this because you've been to many of my pop-up sew days. It's just a chance for us to work on whatever we want to work on, whether it's a quilt, a garment, you're doing some knitting, crocheting, reorganizing all your kitchen pots and pans in alphabetical order, whatever floats your boat that day. It's your time to do whatever you like amongst like-minded people. So yeah, that's coming this Saturday, October the 28th, starting at 8 a.m. in the morning. Maybe a little earlier than that because usually I'm up way before then too. So, yeah. Okay. So that takes me to another little trunk show as I go through all of my quilts. I call this one more reference for me than for you. Family Room Quilts, Part 1. These are quilts that I had sitting on a couch or spread out on a couch in a delightful display on the love seat in our family room. Well, I decided when I started putting out the Halloween decorations that it was looking a little cluttered, and so I removed them all from the couch, folded them up. Now they're down here in our rec room. I just move one pile to another pile kind of thing. That's my organizational scheme. And I thought, well, I'm moving them, might as well show them to you. So I created this video.
This pile of quilts came off of my couch up in the family room, my love seat, and there's quite a few of them here. So I thought, it's starting to look a little cluttered. I need to take them off there, maybe put one fall-like quilt, because it is the fall now, across the couch there, and that's it. Where I'm going to put these, I'm not absolutely sure, but what I'm going to do next is I'm going to hang them up on my rack, and I'm going to talk about each one of these quilts, if I remember what they were. This first quilt is a Stephanie Stitches design, and I completed this last December. Hard to believe. I keep a journal, and I write in when a quilt is completely finished. I write in the journal when I did that. So this was December 22nd. I didn't think it was that long ago, but I guess it was almost a year. As I said, this is Stephanie Stitches design. It's called Mosaic Stars. It's a great pattern, and if you take a closer look at the fabrics that I used in this, these were the fabrics Walter bought me at Christmas 2 years ago, called Pour, and he bought me a huge box of 80 fat quarters, so there were fat quarters from every color way in the line, and I was waiting for a pattern that would really show those off, and Stephanie's definitely did. I love doing this quilt. I think it turned out beautifully, and of course I put it on my Lucy, and you can see what I did. It's an edge-to-edge design, but it almost looks, because of the way it blends into the background fabric, it almost looks like it is a custom design. This one I'm very proud of. I think it turned out very well. And yeah, and if you want to see the backing fabric that I put on this, this is what I used. I wanted something that picked up a lot of the colors that were in the stars on the front. So as I said, this was a Stephanie Stitches design, and it's still available on her Etsy store, I believe, and it's called Mosaic Stars. This next quilt, I believe, was called Coupling Among the Stars, and I think it may have been a Stephanie Stitches pattern. I'm not absolutely 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was. But either way, it's a beautiful pattern, and it's a stunning quilt, I think. Yeah, I'm going to brag about it myself. I really liked it. It was a little bit out of my color range. I like blues. I sometimes will use teals. And yellows. Yellows is not something I use a lot of. I don't dislike yellow. I just don't use it a lot. But as you can see, this particular fabric that's in it does have, and I don't know if the camera will pick it up, a little bit of shimmer. Yeah, the camera's not really picking it up, but there is some shimmer in here as well. Again, I did an edge-to-edge design on Lucy, and it was sort of a very large feather design. They go one way and they go the opposite way, and I really like it. It turned out really quite nice. And here's the back. I picked a fairly plain back in sort of a light blue to go along with the blues that were used on the front of this quilt. And yeah, so that one I'm really pleased with. Some of these quilts, by the way, as I show them, I've got to make a decision if these are going to become gifts, because I really have no place to hang them up and to put them on display. And yeah, they'd make nice gifts if I find appropriate homes for them. This quilt was one that Stephanie and I teamed up and did a sew-along for. This was a free pattern that we found, and a very simple pattern, but I think very effective. And it's called Moonstone, and I think it's named after the fabric that this free pattern was supposed to go with. Of course, I didn't use that fabric. I used pretty much, I don't know, what do you call this, grunge kind of a thing. I went sort of with more of a gradient effect with the way I placed the colors, and yeah, it was just a fun quilt to do as a sew-along. I think it turned out quite nice. Quick to do, because really huge blocks that you're making for this. And yeah, the backing was this blue floral kind of print, and my quilting was an edge-to-edge design, and it swirls. Sorry, there's a shadow. swirls and stars. See if I can get it here so you can see it a little better. There you go. So yeah, I enjoyed doing this one, and I think other people that were in the sew along also enjoyed working on this. Now, this quilt, I don't remember what it was called. I do remember it was a pattern. It may have been a free pattern. And it came in about 3 different sizes, and I think this one, well, this was the second largest size that it had. I used the brownie autumn colors, so this would make kind of a nice fall quilt. And I may hang this one back up on the love seat upstairs because I really like it, unless I pick one of my other quilts on this as well. But yeah, so I'm not really sure what it was called. It was a simple pattern. I remember that because it's basically made up of half square triangles, and it's kind of scrappy because, and I think that's what I used. I just used up scrap fabric to make this one, with the exception of the 3 borders. The backing is a brown kind of color, and my quilting, just trying to find it, my quilting definitely did not show up on here very well. There, that gives you a little idea. It's sort of circly swirls. And the color that I picked blended in maybe just a little too well with the fabrics, although I think I remember at the time thinking, yeah, I didn't really want to have the quilting overpower the fabrics themselves because there's a lot of busy things going on here. But as I said, I think this makes a really nice fall quilt, and for the life of me, I cannot remember what this one was called.
So stay tuned. There'll probably be the second part of that next week. Okay, so that brings us to subscribers quilt of the week. This comes from Elsie. Now, I have problems with her last name. It's fairly easy, but then I do the simplest things in the most complicated manner, as you well know. And she has told me that the C sounds like an S, so her name is Elsie Torosi. Fingers crossed I got that one right. I'm sure if I didn't, Elsie will correct me. So here is her lovely creation. This week's subscriber's quilt comes from Elsie Torosi, and Elsie writes, sharing a quilt I made from a kit as a gift to my sister Brenda, who loves cats and lost 2 this year. Well, let's take a look at this. It is an attic window design, as we can see, based on a panel. And the panel looks like it's a lovely scene of mountains, possibly a lake, and the tree in the foreground looks like it might be a cherry tree. And I noticed that Elsie has picked up in the border the colors of the cherry tree in her flying geese, which are absolutely lovely here too. And the little cat, I don't know if this was part of the kit or if she's added this and appliqued it on, but nevertheless, it's exactly what cats do, look out a window. I am sure her sister absolutely loved this, and what a great memory of her 2 kitties that have passed. So thank you, Elsie, for showing this or sharing this with us. And that takes me to the YouTube video of the week, and this one's about binding. It's by a lady. Her name is Brandy. I can't think of her last name. I used to listen to her podcasts. I haven't in the last little while, but it looks like she's putting more energy into her YouTube channel, and her YouTube channel is The Quilter on Fire. She is a Canadian. And she has a bunch of videos up there now about different techniques, and one of them is about binding. She calls it pieced binding basics, and I found this one kind of interesting in her approach. Not necessarily the approach I would take, but then again, to each his own, whatever works. I still found this video very interesting. This week's YouTube clip is one about binding basics, and I think we've all had that problem before where, we get the whole quilt finished, it's all quilted, we're making our binding and go, uh-oh, I don't have enough of the fabric that I want to use for the binding. Now, many times I like to use the backing fabric as my binding, but sometimes you just come up a little short. So how do you fix that problem? Well, Brandy from the Quilter on Fire shows you how you can compensate for that problem using fat quarter bundles that you may have laying around. And she talks about how to calculate the amount you're going to need for the binding strips and how you put them together as a pieced binding, which has applications for other things too. You might want to do a pieced binding so that you have something that's a little bit more colorful. It's not all one color. So her technique here will work very well with that. So if you've ever been caught short when it comes to how much binding fabric you have, or if you want to do something just a little different as binding around a quilt, you're going to want to check out this video by the Quilter on Fire. And there's a link for that in the show notes below. So that takes me to future projects. This is one, it was a kit I bought when we were in the Cambridge Stratford area a couple of months ago. And I haven't done it yet. It's sitting in my pile of things to get to. But it's a kind of an unusual looking table runner, and that's why I bought it. So here's my review of something that is called the Spicey Spiral Table Runner. This week's future pattern is one that I picked up as a kit from a store on that weekend where we went to Stratford in the Cambridge area. And I believe I picked this up in a little town called Shakespeare at the, what's it called? The Quilt Place, I believe is the name of the store. Now this, as I said, was a kit. It included the pattern, but I did a search online and found that it can be picked up at this particular site called Cheryl Phillips Fiber Art. Now, I think you can get it in other places as well. It is not a free pattern. You have to pay for it. And in this particular case, they're telling you this pattern is not available for download. It's a paper pattern only. But if you do a little bit of a search on Google, I think you might be able to find a downloadable version of this, and you might even find a free version of it. Now, I picked this up because I like the colors that came in the kit, which are not the colors that are being shown here on the pattern. Let's just open it up a little bit more. And as you can see, this says that it takes 8 fat quarters, and it says a 90-degree wedge ruler. Now, in the kit, there is a paper template, at least in the one that I bought. I'm not sure if you order it online, whether it will come with a paper template or not. I think this is going to be a challenge to make, but I did notice that there are some YouTube videos about constructing this, which before I do, I think I may watch for this. I don't know if you are sewing curves in this or not. I suspect that you are, but it is something a little different. That's why it caught my eye, and that's why it's on my list of future projects. Someday when I'm feeling adventuresome and want a challenge, then I might be doing this. So that's the Spicey Spiral Table Runner. And as I said, just do a search. You may find it someplace else. You may even find a free version of it. So at this point, I usually have a teaser for an interview I've done. Well, I haven't done any interviews. I have a few feelers out. You have sent me some suggestions. Thank you very much. And continue to send me those suggestions. Many of them I don't investigate, and I'll tell you why. I appreciate the suggestion, but what you don't know and I do know are some of these are people who really do not need to be interviewed by me. They are well known. And I have found when people get to a certain level on YouTube of notoriety or whatever you want to call it, of fame, celebrity status, whatever, they really are too busy to be interviewed. Yeah. Okay. But I still appreciate you sending me the suggestions. So I have one out from a suggestion. I haven't heard back from this person yet. To be honest, I have my doubts I will hear from this person. Not because they're too big, just because, I guess. But we'll see. We'll see. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? So nothing this week. I don't know what I'll have for you and when I'll have it. But I'll keep plugging away. Okay. That takes me to online fabric stores or quilting stores. This one is sort of in my backyard. I'm surprised I haven't reviewed this one before. I've been to it a couple of times. It's a cool little store. Prices are pretty good. And it's not a huge place, but their selection was pretty good. And it's called Sew Sisters. And it's basically in the north end of sort of Scarborough-y, Toronto-y kind of thing. And well, here's my review. This week's online quilt store is one that's located in Toronto, Canada, and it is one I have actually been to before, but I have never checked out their website. So we're going to do that right now. It's called Sew Sisters Quilt Shop. Now, I remember that the shop had a fairly good selection of fabrics. It's not a huge shop, and they had fairly good prices as well. So let's see how that compares to what they're offering online. So here's their front page. Very simple. It's quilt fabrics, pre-cuts, clearance, and notions and thread. They show that they have glide thread, $7.99 a spool. That's about the going price. They have some quilt books, 3-meter bundles, and some other featured fabrics as well, and designers, and what they have on sale. So there's quite a bit of information here on their front page. So let's go to their fabrics, quilt fabric, and see what we get here. Okay, so on the left-hand side, it does have filters. It goes by brand. Let's take a look at brands. They have quite a few to choose from. They have clearance. They have collections. So Batiks, Canadiana, Christmas, Kona, etc. And they do list by designers as well. So I always like to see that little left sidebar that does this kind of thing, because it makes shopping and locating what you might be specifically looking for a lot easier. So let's check out their prices. It looks like they list their fabric by the meter, and it's $19.96 per meter. So that's almost $20 a meter. That's about the going price right now. And it looks like that does not vary. That seems to be the price of all their fabric. 51 pages of it. Let's pop over a couple of pages just to check my theory. There is some a little cheaper, $14.96 a meter. So okay, so $14.96 to, oh no, there's some at $12.96. Kona solids. So from $12.96 to $19.96 seems to be the range. And it looks like they have quite a few to choose from. Do they have Northcott? Yes, just let's see what they have to choose from in Northcott. Oh, here's some I have not seen. Cat's pajamas. They've got some nice looking Christmas stuff. Ooh, I do like, oh, it's flannel. But I do like the design. And the penguins are cute too. Again, flannel. So it looks like they have a lot of flannel. And yeah, so I think their selection is pretty good. And in store it was as well, I remember. So let's check out their pre-cuts. And they have 77 products, it says. And so they have the jelly rolls. Price-wise, looks about what you would expect. Charm packs are a little on the high side. I'm used to paying in around about $15, $16. However, I have a great quilt store, Ultimate Sewing, where prices are really good. So that's not out of the way. Christmas, yeah, they have 4 pages of these, so they have a fairly good selection of pre-cuts and bundles as well. Okay, let's check out then their notions, and they have some books, they have rulers, the usual kinds of things that you expect. Now, let's take a look. They do have Aurifil, $16.99. That's a good price, because Aurifil has gone up in price. I know especially in the States it's gone way up. Here in Canada, which is unusual, but it has not gone up quite as much as what I'm seeing in the States. So $16.99 Canadian for a spool of Aurifil is a 1,300 meter spool is a good price, and it looks like they have all the colors to choose from. Okay, they have gift cards. They have a section called New Arrivals, so new fabrics that have come in, and glide thread I already mentioned, and I use glide for quilting on my Lucy, $7.99. That's a okay price for glide. It's in the ballpark. And specials, so that Cat's pajamas is kind of on sale. I have not seen that before, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist someplace else. It may not be that new. I kind of like it. I think it's kind of cute. $14.96 a meter. That's not a bad price. Pending here now on what they charge for shipping. And then they have clearance. We'll check shipping out in just a minute. And yeah, none of these are grabbing me. Although $11.96 a meter, that's pretty good. So there might be something here for you if you take a look at it. Okay, it doesn't look like they offer classes. I didn't see a classroom in their store, so that's not a surprise to me. But let's just see if we can figure out what's shipping. They have directions to getting to their store policies. I'm not seeing anything here about shipping. I wonder if it's in store policies. Shipping, here we go. Most of our packages are fully insured and sent using Canada Post's expedited parcel service. You're ordering less than 2.5 meters of fabric or a pattern, you can ship your package by letter mail. Letter mail is quite slow. Please expect it to take 7 to 10 business days, and it does not have a tracking number. There is no insurance on packages sent via letter mail. If you'd like your package sent letter mail, please make a note in the comment section when you place your order. If you would like your items faster and be provided with insurance and a tracking number, please select expedited parcel. If you'd like to have your package sent express post, please send us an email and we'll get you a quotation. Okay, so $0 to $100. Expedited is $10.99. And for the US, it's $18.99. And international actual postage. But if you buy over $100 worth, in Canada, it's free, expedited. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I don't think their shipping prices are out of line at all. So, yeah, this is definitely, as I said, a store that you might want to check out online. If you're in the Toronto area, you might want to actually go in because although it's not a huge store, it has a fairly good selection. The lady who runs it is very, very nice and very accommodating. So yeah, check out Sew Sisters. So that brings me to pretty much the end of this episode of the Idiot Quilter. However, just a reminder, Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen on Wednesday. Okay. And you'll probably hear more about this. Right now, I have decided I had more than the usual number of men at this particular retreat. And I thought, and don't get mad at me, ladies, I'm thinking of running male only sew day. Okay? I'm sorry. Yeah, nothing against you ladies, but sometimes we guys like to get together. And it is a lonely world for men in the quilting world. It is. Because although there's more and more of us, we are still a bit of a novelty item. Sometimes we're met with, most of the time, the ladies welcome us into their arena. But there are times when there's a few that are, well, how do you put it mildly, just bitches about a man in their group. I've run into that as well. But I thought it might be just nice to see what the dynamics are like when it's only men. Because I think they're going to be very different. So sorry, girls, ladies, it's a men's only club. And I'm in the process of putting it together. Don't know how successful this is going to be. It is an experiment. I'll let you know how things go. But right now, I'm just in the planning stages of that. And what else is coming up this week? I'm expecting an AccuQuilt order from Kawartha Quilting at some point. And I suspect it'll come this week. And I will show it to you probably next week. That's another thing, another project on my list. I have a bunch of AccuQuilt dies that I have not even taken out of the package yet. And what I'd like to do is make a sample from each die and actually maybe put those samples together as a small quilt or something like that. I don't know. It might be a good reference if I did that with all of my dies and put it together in sort of a wall hanging, and then, I'd know what the dies kind of look like when they're pieced together. That's a good thought. Just had it now. Did it hurt me? Not really. I think all the time. Do you know that? Yeah, I have these wonderful ideas that go through my head. Sometimes go right back out. Okay, rambling. Gotta say goodbye. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see some of you on Wednesday. Hope to see more of you at the Pop-Up Sew Day on Saturday. Link for that is in the show notes below. And yeah, have a great week. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.